This is Coffee with Holistic Dog Professionals. Learn from Roman and David how to become your dog's best friend.
Hello, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Everybody, can I see your coffees? Where's your coffee? Here's your coffee. Guess what? I don't have a coffee. I forgot my coffee.
Oh no.
It's old. So, what are we talking today? Today we're talking about, do large dogs need tough handling? And the reason why I thought we should discuss that and clear things out is because many people believe that if you have a big dog, you better have big tools. Why would you tolerate 90-pound puppy to pull you on the leash and cross the walkway just because he wants to meet a person? So, of course, people say you should use a prong collar on a puppy, because how else will you control 90 pounds if you just half the weight of it soon? And why not using a shock collar that definitely diverts the dog from doing something you don't want? It's kind of like your magic chapter. Ding! You just kind of a little zap just in case your dog doesn't pay attention to you and redirect him coming back to you. Or if your puppy starts running towards the fence barking at the neighbor's cat and dogs, why don't you let him know that you disagree with it? You just push the button and let him know what you trained him to do. Or, if your dog doesn't sit, and you know what? If you have a big dog, 900, 200 pounds, and you ask him to sit and he doesn't, of course you have to lift that choke collar a little bit and that prong collar, because otherwise, if you don't establish your, alpha leadership, your dog will just run over your family. And you know what? They can kill your family. Like, better be starting soon than too late, because you're going to lose the game soon, right? So what do you guys think about this concept? Do you guys have other concepts that I miss? Because I hear this all the time.
Dan, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'm thinking of some of the biggest dogs that I've worked with that were wearing prong collars. And ironically, quite a few were Labradors. So people think of Labradors as typically very people-friendly and they don't growl and all of those things. And I'm thinking of one in particular who was 90 pounds. He was afraid of the mailman coming down the street, so he would rush to the window, bark, and lunge. His glass was wavering like that. And if anybody dared to come to the door, the behavior got more exaggerated. So the owners were trying to suppress that behavior by pulling on the prong collar. And what we did with the dog in a very short time was we taught him classical conditioning. Mailman makes food appear. So we've got a positive association. And then we taught him the operant behavior of see the mailman look at the owner and then run to his bed in the next room, and he got treats there. So he was learning to announce the arrival of the mailman. That was his job. He got a couple of barks in, and then he went to the bed and he laid there with happy expectation. And we transferred that to visitors coming into the home. So the first time I met the dog, he practiced the behaviors he always had. He rushed up and put his paws on my shoulders and stared at me with a big tooth display. And in a very short time, he learned to wait on his bed until he was released. And then I'd cue him with my hand cue, which you can't really see. And he'd come running up and put his wet nose to my palm, and then he'd look at his owner. So we learned a whole different behavior chain. And we weren't trying to punish him. We were just trying to convince him that he could do his job in a different way. And that worked out very nicely.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, people are quick to use those aversive tools because they did not take the proper time in the very beginning to condition the right behaviors in an environment that the dog can offer those behaviors. So, for example, a dog that pulls has never been taught to follow a person. I've got a client right now that's trying to get the Malinois, a high drive Malinois, to stop pulling. Never at any point in time was the dog conditioned to look to a person or follow a person around. All they ever did was take the dog outside and let it follow its nose and its instinct. So now it's 6 months old and it's conditioned to track and air scent and follow any movement. And that's what it was taught in the beginning. It was never taught to follow. So now I'm in a position where how can I become more reinforcing in an environment where there's prey items, there's moving stimulation, there's all of these things going on, and the dog doesn't necessarily care about food because they get in a higher state of arousal. That's then the frustration comes in. What do I do at that point? How do I get this dog to listen when they keep barking and lunging and pulling and doing everything else other than paying attention to me? So I try to explain to my clients is you have to go back to kindergarten and treat this dog, even though it's 6 months old, treat it as if it's 8 weeks old. And the only way it gets fed is by following you in the heel position around the house, conditioning right by your side, looking to you. Anytime it looks to you, it gets fed. You've got to recondition the brain to look to you and follow before you expect it to be able to do that in a distracting environment.
I'm considered a large breed specialist, behavior specialist. I work with large breed since 2009 full time. I belong to 4 or 5 groups, over 40,000 people, and in 2 of those, I am the in-house, behavior coach, kind of, sort of, to call it this way. Um, I had to leave a couple of groups because I couldn't handle the emotional aspect of reading comments of how to treat animals. And I said, if I don't get the admin on my side, I don't want to be in that group. Tolerating heavily abusive methods to handle a 12-week-old puppy, having the children dominate that puppy to establish the alpha leadership. I mean, I get goosebumps. I get PTSD from that. It happened to me. I had to do it once to a dog who literally went to my throat. He's still with me, and I had to make the choice, me or him, because I didn't know how this was gonna end. And I was 20 minutes on the floor, struggling with that dog, trying not to kill him, and trying not to get hurt. That was my only option. Do I have PTSD of that? Oh yeah. If a dog barks in my face, I see that flashing back to me. And I really appreciate that dog because we came from the same angle. We both felt threatened to death, and we both had to make a choice, letting go. It took us 20 minutes. He pooped himself. I peed myself, so that we had to clean up. But it took us a couple of minutes to trust us to get away from there. And I don't wish anybody to be in that state because you have nothing else than your bare hands. And I didn't feel different than a guy in an arena in Rome fighting with the lions because his head was kind of the size of my head. And after that event, I literally looked deeper into the dog psychology and into the breed traits, try to understand what makes a large breed dog so special to us. Why do we want this large breed to be part of the family? So I went all the way back. To be more precise, I went back 318 to 272 before Christ, where King Molosser, which was the king of the Molosser tribe in Greece, had 2 types of dogs in his /training program. Now, who was the king of Molosser? He was a king in the center of Greece back then. There were these different tribes in an area where we call it kind of like the human evolution in um, in being social and democracies and all this stuff. So these people were herders and hunters. So King Molosser had 2 types of breeds that he had. All of them are coming out. Yes? page. And from there, they had two needs. One is to herding dogs and sheep, to herding sheep and protect the village. And the other one was to go hunting. Now, we need two type of dogs. The one dog that we need for hunting, we need to have the dog being connected with the prey and being able to be recalled to come back to the owner. And then we have the other dog who's supposed to be together with the family and the owner and not leaving the property unless to defend. So we have two mindsets. The one is easily to disconnect from the owner, and the other one is not easy to disconnect from the owner. And so we create two pathways. The one is the guardian, and the other one is the hunter. The guardian has two splits: herding, keeping things together, and guarding things so they stay together from other predators and intrusions. And then we have the hunter who's taking down whatever moves and bring it back to the family. Now, King Molosser was smart enough to say, hey, this is a great tool. I can actually use it for wars. Because if I have a dog who is a personal guarding dog and is such emotional intelligence to make a separation between predator and prey, between threat and non-threat, between family, friend, and stranger or danger, then I can use them as a personal protection dog. And if I am an officer and I am in war in a strange country, I don't want to be killed, and at least I want somebody to support myself. And I think back then we had a clear definition of what is a personal guard dog is and what is a personal hunting dog is. Now that comes with a genetic configuration, and it came so far that Alexander the Great, when he went in the East to kind of expand, the Greek ideas and, expand his territory, each individual officer had a personal guard dog. Now, back then, he didn't have a machinery and money to support that. So each one who was rich could buy his gear to protect himself. If you didn't have money to buy a sword, you would be just the last guy in the field being with a bow and arrow. If you didn't have money and you didn't have wealth, you wouldn't have to afford a horse. You had to pay for your gear and go there and, expand your territory. And you would have benefits, because if you were good enough and you were a good strategic leader, you would own a city and you would become the mayor of that city in the name of Alexandria. So all these little towns of Alexander the Great were left back as Alexandrias, and each one had a mayor, kind of, sort of, and each one had a dog. So we see how the Molosser breed was distributed throughout the countries and throughout the East, West, North, and South through those explorations, throughout those wars. And now we see all these Molosser breeds. I think there are 120, if I remember right. From Bulldog to Great Pyrenees, from English Mastiffs to Cane Corso and Chinese Mastiffs, all of them, and even Japanese Mastiffs, all of them have one common denominator: guardian or hunter. Now, of course, those breed traits, if we take them in a household, we will see that those breed traits have positive and negatives. A stubborn dog, which is a persistent dog, has two ways to be persistent: very persistent or not persistent, very stubborn or not stubborn at all. A dog who has hard time to acclimate himself, he will have difficulties in changes of environment, changing, meeting people. So what is that? Barbara, the dog Roman is talking about was extremely abused by his owner before Roman got him. He is a perfect example of how abusive training methods can cause aggression. I agree. He's a sweet boy now, and when he gets stressed out, he's being taught that there are other options that he can choose instead of attacking. Yeah, that was a hard lesson for over years, because that PTSD response always is in the background. It always can be triggered. So what do you guys see when you guys working with big dogs? Do you see those two breed traits coming out as Mastiff breeds, the hunting trait and the guardian trait? How do you guys deal with a dog who's growling at strangers if he's a guardian dog? How do you approach a growling or a barking dog who is a hunting trait, like a cane corso, for example, or a presa? Have you worked with those guys?
Oh yeah. hmm Me personally, I ignore that. I don't take that as a personal attack on me. I don't try to correct it or mark it as something bad. I just play it off like, oh, come on, buddy. That's no big deal. Come on, let's go play. You try to change their train of thought to play primarily. I want them to see me and think I'm something to engage with in a happy way. And I've seen their demeanor change very quickly that way, as opposed to either acting fearful or acting aggressive right back to them. You know, if you try to give that back to them in that dominance theory, it could blow up in your face where it's going to escalate. So I ignore it. I will back up though, if I feel, obviously safety is a concern, but I try to redirect their focus of thinking as best I can.
I agree. I agree with you with that. How about you, Dan?
The dogs that I've worked with that were kind of aggressive towards strangers, usually the term territorial have been applied, where they're protective of their yard or their house, but not necessarily out in public spaces that aren't theirs. So if that was the history of the dog, I would try to arrange meeting the owners and the dog away from the house, maybe just a couple hundred feet away. And they would have a supply of food that the dog really loves, and I would just be something in the environment. I'd be parked down the block, and I'd just be walking in and out of view. So my appearance would make food appear. And it's classical conditioning again. The dog would begin seeing me as the trigger of the food delivery and would then pay attention to the owner. And then gradually I'd work closer and closer until I got to the point where I could be tossing food to the dog. And that, in just about every case, allowed me to walk into the home with the family where we all were entering at once, and it wasn't as if the dog was in there guarding the home and I was intruding. And that was a useful first step in getting rid of the growling. So there wasn't any motivation. I wasn't a threat. I was an opportunity. And that was easier for the dog to learn.
What is growling? We know it. Just for people who says, you know what, growling is aggression. And I know many veterinarians, and actually the veterinary society community actually describes growling as sign of aggression. Is growling aggression? Like if you come to me in the morning and you try to get my coffee away and I like, what are you doing? That's considered growling. Am I aggressive? You haven't seen aggression yet, right?
Right. No, it's just a distance signal. It's the way dogs ask you to give them space.
Yeah, it's communication.
Right. Well, dogs are nonverbal, so they cannot say, hey, dude, what's up? Or, you know what? You're going in the wrong direction here. This is my territory. Look, back off. Mm-hmm. The only way to, let's put it this way. There is no way a dog will growl first. There is always a visual signal first. And growling is the second last resort. And then we have two options, basically three options. Freeze, fight, or flight, which the dog has a choice to do. So first, of the out of nowhere, we have not moving, a displacement behavior. We have whale eyes, we have the head tilting, we have whales, tail stops wagging, lifting leg, anything that a dog does differently from the moment you become aware of. Where the dog tries to signal you, hey, I don't like the situation you're doing right now. It could be evil wrinkles on the head. It could evil ears back. Anything that your particular dog would do. Not all dogs speak the same face language because not dogs know how to use them. So there are many dogs who actually they don't speak well the dog language because they never had social skills. A dog from a breeding facility, for example. A dog from, let's say, for example, that is being raised without his litter mates and without his parents. So he has no clue about that. So we are called in to help that dog. So if the dog shows the first signs of displacement behavior, I need to mark that as I see it. My kids need to mark it as I see it. And I think the first thing to do is to show the dog your intentions has changed since perceive that message. So if you're walking past the dog and all the dog starts growling, stop, make a U-turn, walk away. Let him know that I see it. Then try to understand what it just happened. Oh, he has a bone there. Interesting. He's protective over his bone. Why would that be? Question number one. Likely, there is a medical condition. Why would dogs growl over their food? Because they feel that if they don't, it's being taken away. And why would they feel that way? It's because they need to eat it. They need that for their nutrition, or they need that for their belly. And if a dog has belly ache, and if the dog has a digestive problem, the first thing he does, he feels the need to heal. He needs the need to protect himself. He needs the need to protect his resources because he cannot eat it right now because it doesn't feel good. He needs to keep it for later. So if the dog shows any signs of displacement behavior, first question the medical condition. Second is the environmental factors. What is the situation? Where is the dog placed? Is he cornered? Doesn't have a way out? Does the dog have PTSD? Does the dog have bad experience from the past that is reflecting and it comes up as fear of approach? If the dog is being triggered, and I pulled up that sign here, if you're on the threshold, the dog is calm, shows no signs of any fear, concern, will take treats, follow commands, does everything you want him to do. But if you pass down that and cross that line that he has in his mind, you are at threshold. And the dog starts becoming tense, shows signs of insecurity or concern, will not take treats, and does not follow commands. So if you ask the dog, what's up? Or, hey, come sit and do these things, and he doesn't respond, it makes you more and more guilty of his accusation of you having something in mind that he doesn't want to do. And then all of a sudden he goes over threshold. And over threshold is the dog starts reacting and shows signs of fear and aggression, meaning is barking, challenging you, and make any way possible for you to change your intentions. And so if the dog recognizing that you have intentions that is in threat of him, he will respond to that. And if you continue going down that road, then you likely get hurt. And 3.2 million people are getting hurt every year, most of them by their own dogs, and 400,000 children, most of them from family pets. So that's a big number that we need to consider. And I know there are many books out there, and there's this scale of aggression, which I don't understand why it's called aggression when it's a scale of trial to communications. Okay, if the dog escalates his behavior for you to listen, hey, listen, I have a problem. Listen, well, listen. That's not aggression. It's a scale of warnings to de-escalate a situation. It's not signs of aggression, right? Now, we see many times people get confused with signals. My dog was wagging his tail, and therefore he's wagging his tail, he's friendly to strangers, right? And he's friendly with dogs, and all of a sudden he attacked my neighbor. How did that happen? Well, if we look at different situations, for example, a dog, just this case, this nice blonde guy who's super tense, we can see literally he's looked like a stature. And then we have this other dog, huckles up, he's doing a playboy. Like literally people would say he is inviting this dog to play. Like what's wrong with that? They're friendly, right? But is it what it looks like?
I think in this situation, it could have gone a lot better if they were not on leash and they had the ability to position themselves properly, the way they want. When they're on leash head to head like that, it creates a tense situation because they can't, turn to the side and offer their rear or give another play ball. That dog is so tight, he couldn't play ball if he wanted to because he's being held up, which is going to make him feel vulnerable. Even though that dog wants to play, he could feel, threatened just because he can't protect himself properly. So that could lead to a defensive, aggressive move just out of self-preservation.
Right. So we see that a signal, as it looks like, is not always the signal we believe it is, but we have to really understand the dog's perspective. So if I see that example, what do we see here? We see two cute, maybe they're brothers, maybe they're on the same play date, they look the same breed, so they would definitely communicate well, right? So we see a dog, obviously he's wagging his tail, his disposition is straight, but the other guy, his tail is up, his hackles are up. What is going on there? Are they about to play? Are they about kind of like to meet each other? What do you guys think?
Dan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think the dog that's in the bow position might be trying to appease the other dog to diffuse the tension.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. The smarter guy is the one who does the play ball. So it's not a play ball, it's an intention. Hey, I'm just here to play. I'm just here to have fun. Is it the invitation to play? No, it's a state of mind. Hey, dude, I'm just making a joke. Chill out, man. It's not a play ball, it's an expression of emotional state. It's not literally invitation. That is a different picture. Does he have hackles up? Yeah. Oh, wait. That's a ridge bug. So that's what they do. They have this ridge back there that kind of looks like hackles up, but it's not. We see from their play disposition in that case that both are on the same page. Hey, you want to play? I have intentions to be kind of a funny guy. And the other guy is like, oh, I like your jokes. Let's play around a little bit. How about I chase you down to the water and I'm faster than you anyway? And the other guy is like, you know what? I'm going to hurt your legs. And he's like, I'm going to chase you down. So they kind of have a common denominator. They have fun about that. So if we look those three pictures and we kind of try to feel into the situation, we are called as parents to feel how my dog feels like. If I have a common base, how does my dog feel like if he is happy? How does my dog feel like if he's tense? How does my dog feel like if he's stressor? I will not be able to translate that information, and my dog will gonna end up hurt. So from my perspective is I have to listen to my dog. It's like, you go to the bathroom. So excuse-moi. You guys, happy to continue here. I'll be right back. Question for you guys to follow in between. How do we address a dog who has a first fear response or a first displacement response? What do I do as an owner when I have this leash in my hands? Message to you guys.
Well, I think the best thing you can do from a trainer standpoint or an evaluation standpoint is give the dog distance. Not try to encroach on its personal space. Turn to the side, make yourself small, non-threatening. Dan, you had mentioned tossing treats towards the dog's direction, allowing him to make the decision to move towards you. That kind of thing. Empower the dog to let him know he can make these decisions where it's not all about what we want. It's about building his confidence, primarily, first and foremost.
Yeah, those are good points. And I think a lot of it comes down to giving dogs choice. So I'm not moving into the dog space. I'm doing the things that you suggest and maybe kneeling sideways and just waiting and not making a lot of direct eye contact. Give the dog a chance to make a decision if they're safe or not. And if they want to come up and investigate, I'm going to remain pretty still. I'm not going to suddenly reach out to pet. The dog might be trying to build their confidence, and then they realize, oh, I knew I couldn't trust you after all. So it's nice to see when dogs get choices, then you begin to understand their motivation better.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you were a police officer in the past, right?
That's correct.
So let's do a comparison. I'm not comparing you to dogs. Kind of I do, but not really. Coming in as a guardian who guards and protects the law and implements the law into facts. If you are called into a situation where you are going into um, a home invasion, and you know there is a hostage there, and frontline is likely a person who is armed, and you coming in as guardian, you want to help this family, you want to protect this family, so you have to take this guy out who is an intruder. What are you looking first to recognize when you come into that house? The first thing I think you would do, as common sense, is try to find out who is the owner and who is the intruder. How do you make that separation? How do you see the difference? Do you ask him, hey, are you the intruder? What are you looking for?
If someone was experiencing a crisis in their home and they called for help, they would look relieved when I arrived, and the intruder would not look relieved. You'd see, very often you'd see an escape response where they're trying to get away. And they sometimes, if they felt they couldn't, they might become aggressive, but you could see quite a difference between the people who were looking to you as the helper and the person that saw you as someone that's going to take them into custody.
Hold on there. Let me hold on a little bit. We'll kind of break it down a little bit for pieces, especially for fellow colleagues who have to deal with these dogs. So the first time you see if the person has a fear response, likely to go into flight or fight, that is your target. Are you accusing him of being a bad guy? Did you say anything or do anything that makes him feel threatened? Or is this his perception of your appearance that he is a victim or he is the prey? He makes you who you are by his behavior, right? He could ignore you and it's like, hey, dude, you looking for that guy? He's down the road. And the first thing you're going to do is like, wait, I thought he's the guy. Now he's giving me directions. He's trying to help me. Wait, what? It will be a confusion to you if that person is inviting you in versus running away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I would be the dog and you behave not friendly but supportive, you will not be my suspect. I would like, wait, did I miss a thing here? Are you a friend and I missed it? My brain will be switched on, try to find out things. Even if I'm in automatic mode, ready to pull that trigger, I still have to reconsider the situation just in case I'm wrong. How much time do you have to make the decision? Am I right or am I wrong? A second? 2 seconds?
Split second.
Right? A split second. So
Yeah.
we have a dog who can snap a fly while passing by without prior opening the mouth. So we see there is a processing speed that is higher than a human. Having to make a split second decision whether you're a friend or not. How much time do you have to change your body language to not be the trigger and the suspect? So if you don't come in from the very beginning, hey, I'm here to support you, dude. What's up? Oh, I respect your property. I have no intentions to come in. So I'm here holding space for you until you made up your mind. Am I a friend or am I a threat? How do you think my body language will affect that dog? What is his calming curve from being there tense, waiting for me to do the dang thing so he has a reason to attack me, into diffuse the situation? I was like, sorry, man. Do whatever you need to do. I'm here. I'm not moving. How would you feel as an officer if I offer you a way out? How would I feel as a suspect of not getting shot or not being arrested? It's because of my behavior. And I think a dog has to make the same call. Are you a friend What is your intention? Are you about to intrude? Do you respect the space? Do you follow the rules that everybody set here? Because my people are coming through the garage door. You are coming through the main door. You must be the bad guy, since you're not the family. And I remember I got a phone call. It was in 2014 from New Jersey. A Facebook follower calls me. Hey, I'm a Facebook follower for many years, and I love the way you work, but I need your help right now. I'm at the client's house. He has a cane corso, and they left for vacation. And I was fine yesterday with that dog. Today I want to come in the house, and I'm not being able to open the door. The dog is going to kill me. And I was like, cool. Do you have a gas station next door? And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, do you have a gas station next door? Can you go close by and get some sausages? Like the long sticks. She's like, are you kidding me? I need to get in the house. She's like, I know. Now go back to the gas station, get a couple of those chew sticks, and every time you open the door, I want you to throw a piece in there and close the door. She's like, you know, it's a cane corso, right? I was like, yeah, I know. Now open the door, toss it in and close the door. Just a little bit. Open the door, toss it a small treat, close the door. I want the dog to change his mind. What happens if that door opens? Long story short, an hour later, she was in that house taking the dog out for a walk. And all she had is positive reinforcement. Could she ever put the dog a prong collar on? No. Could she ever put the choke collar on? No. Could she ever correct the dog? No. She had no other tools other than positive reinforcement. Make the dog feel different about the situation that happens in front of him. What do you guys think of that? Because I was like, you did a great job there, because I would not open that door. Sometimes you have,
that's
right?
a risk.
So we see that people have a misconception of what the dog actually does, because he was friendly last time when parents were there, but if the parents leave, his job is activated. He is the guardian, and his job is to not let anybody else other than the family. They didn't think that through. The idea was good, but the way it's produced was wrong. So if I don't educate the dog, what is the process? What is the outlet? What are the options? Option A, option B. What if the person comes through the garage door? What if the person comes through the main door? What person comes through the backyard? The pool guy, the bad guy, goes to the backyard. The mailman comes and knocks at the door, or the pizza guy, and he comes in and he leaves. He never comes in. He's never a friend. And then you have the other guy comes from the garage. Mom, dad, sister, brother, family, because that's what we do. But who's going for the front? Front door is for the guests. Family comes to the garage, can see our dirt and, all this mess in the garage. That's fine, But dogs remembers these sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does it make a big dog differently than a small dog? Do I need to treat a small dog who is yappy, 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 and a dog who's woof, 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 different the way we treat them?
I wouldn't think so. I think it's more on the individual personality, the temperament of the dog. Obviously with bigger dogs, they can do more damage. So you would have to be a little bit, more protecting yourself, because you won't want to get seriously harmed. Whereas the little ones, you can live through that. So they kind of get a pass sometimes, the little ones, the Chihuahuas and the Dachshunds and that, they can be vicious as well, but they don't get judged the same as, say a Pit Bull or a Cane Corso. But it's the same approach of winning trust, showing them that you're not a threat, not trying to be heavy-handed or domineering, but creating a mutual bond of, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to care for you. I'm going to be your provider for the time being. A good exercise there would have been to do like a mock leave, where the owners go down the street and have the pet sitter come in a few times. Practice that while the owners are still in the neighborhood. Run that a few times where the dog gets used to that pet sitter coming in alone, but the owners are still close by, and just kind of work them in that way. So it's not going to be the very first or second time even that they've come through the house alone. That might help. And obviously the food, that's the game changer.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Dan? How would that be a solution?
I guess I'd like to underscore that there's one learning theory, and it applies to all species. And I'm thinking of people like Bob Bailey, who spent decades working with tens of thousands of individual animals in 145 or so species using positive reinforcement. And a veterinary behaviorist that I met who spent 10 years working with zoo animals, including teaching a hippopotamus how to come up to the edge of the water and open his mouth for a dental exam, one of the most dangerous animals on the planet. I know someone who operates a wolf park, and he goes into the park to work with the wolves, 120-pound animals, and if they need veterinary care, they're not being forcibly handled. You don't manhandle an African lion to teach them to put their paw up for a blood draw. So there are a lot of people, lots of people around the world are figuring out how to work with larger animals without resorting to force. So I think that works with dogs too.
How can a person being proactive rather than reactive? Because what I see usually is the dog makes a mistake, people react. The dog is in trouble, people react. The dog bites somebody, people react. I think there's no difference between a small dog and a big dog to be proactive. Setting a family code of conduct, following the species' needs, social needs and emotional needs, to guide him through a process, break it down in a small individual piece that the dog can understand. What happens if that door knocks? What happens if I meet people? So dogs have expectations. A good example, I give my dog 5 treats of one particular treat he really likes, and then I give him a treat he doesn't like. What is the dog's look if that happens? And it's like, that's not what I expected. So we have expectation. So if that dog expects something to happen and it doesn't happen the way he expected to happen, it's not because the dog is bad. It's because of his experience that has to happen a certain way. So we see there is an idea of routine, and there is the idea of a ritual. So wolves have rituals, dinosaurs had rituals, humans have rituals, church has rituals, politics have, everything functions with rituals. The only way for us to function in a society is we have proper rituals. We have expectations and we have obligations. And through that wheel, things move forward. So if I come in the house and my dog expects me to greet him and I don't, the first thing would be is him questioning the situation. Hey, what's wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? Why isn't he paying attention to me? Am I worth less than before? If the dog is used, hand reach out to offer a treat, and this person just opened the door and he's a guest, he doesn't have treats, actually he's allergic to those dog treats, how will the dog see that person? He's not compliant. He must be a stranger. He must be a danger. So the dog will make conclusions if things are not happening based on a ritual. No, so being proactive means teach the dog social skills, meaning meeting people. No, it doesn't mean that. Meeting and show the dog different versions of a thing he has to interact with. Environmental factor, a garbage bin, a blue garbage bin, a black garbage bin, a small garbage bin, a large garbage bin, a garbage bin on a truck, off the truck, next to the truck. These are different options of the dog troubleshooting a situation he's being triggered by. I've seen a dog being triggered by a car. Well, he likes driving with a car, but he's attacking cars. Why is he attacking cars? How would you handle a dog of 250 pounds, Mastiff? How would you handle a Great Pyrenees who is a guardian breed that attacks cars? Why does he do that? There is always a functional behavior behind that. So as a guardian being proactive, I have to understand the dog's functional behaviors. I have to understand the dog's breeds and breed traits. And I had to understand his job description. So if my Pyrenees, for example, it's a good example because I work with one right now, who is a guardian breed has to approach predators differently than his own. And then the other thing he has to do is he doesn't have time to judge, because he's likely is alone, maybe 2 or 3, and they have a group of predators coming up to him and split that group apart that he's protecting to separate them, so there are not enough dogs to protect the groups, and those don't target one particular. They have a tactic. How much time does the dog has to make that decision? And now from a dog's perspective, his genetics are triggered for something that approaches really fast. And if we look at a car from the front with his 2 eyes, we call them headlights, and his big mouth, we call them grill, and his facial expression, we call him bumper, and then he has a second mouth underneath, we call it license plate, and then he's coming in low, we call it tires, and he's attacking you. How much time does the dog have to react? And what do you do with that if a 160-pound dog pulls you down the street? Well, of course, you have to control the situation and do whatever possible to hang yourself on a tree or jerk the dog away from it. Is that the way to go? Like, I'm jumping off the plane, try to figure out on my way down how to use the parachute. It's kind of late.
Yeah.
What do is you pray you fall soft. Now, proactive. What can we do to be proactive with a large breed?
Well, I mean, those are reactionary responses, as you said. So with the large breed, or any breed really, you have to understand the triggers first, bullet point each individual, so we're not trying to counter condition multiple triggers at once. You have to be able to control each trigger in a systematic way through the time of exposure and also the distance of the trigger, which is the most important. So you have to set up these training scenarios to where you can control the distance and the time of exposure to the trigger and then counter condition that way. So it's, finding that threshold, that distance threshold, and then acknowledging the car as a good thing before the dog barks and lunges. So as soon as he looks, hey, there's a car, then you're like, yes, good boy, puppy, puppy, puppy. And you're backpedaling, calling him to you. So you're creating a redirectional exercise where the trigger is now a cue to look to you for a high value reward. But that has to be done at a distance that the dog can do it. On the street or on the sidewalk may be too close.
I want to be the lawyer's dog, the dog's lawyer, let's say this way.
Mm-hmm.
Why would my client listen to your instructions? Why would my client trust you to tell him that that's not the deal? He sees a predator. He was intruded. This predator did not show any respect to his rules. Why would he listen to you? That's not a problem.
Well, you should already have established a bond of trust and mutual understanding and training prior to exposure to triggers. If he doesn't know you, then yeah, I don't know this guy, I'm going to do what I want. But if you've already laid the proper groundwork of obedience and being able to communicate and control him, and the recall is strong, then your recall is your go-to. Let's go this way and let's go do this instead. And the dog's already been conditioned to turn and come to you for a reward and a redirectional behavior.
Now I'm one of my clients who called me a couple of weeks ago. I adopted this dog. You know how much money I spent for this damn thing? Okay, I paid $3,500 and did a 2-day trip to get that dog from a breeder. This dog deserves, I deserve obedience, and I deserve to be respected. He has no right to behave that way. I don't tolerate it in my family, him growling at my kids. One more growl, I'll take him down. Well, I'm the alpha. I'm his leader. I bought him, he's mine. I heard it. It's not my idea.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, you're calling the wrong guy here, but I hold space for you. Let me explain. Dan, what do you think? What would be your reply?
Well, I know the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior published a position statement on dominance theory, and basically they're debunking what are popular beliefs. And I've seen that explanation from other scientific sources too. It it serves the human ego to think that we're the boss and we're in charge and we should control the animal and they don't have a choice. But as you've said, there's always a functional purpose behind behavior. And dogs are very social animals. So they put up with a lot of the abusive behavior that people impose on them that my friend at the Wolf Park can't possibly consider. So he was talking about dominance theory in relation to wolves, and he laughed when he said it. You try to force something, and if they don't eat you, they'll just move away. You're not going to dominate them, but we can dominate a little 40-pound dog. And I think there's a misunderstanding of the term dominance, because in dog behavior, it's competition over a resource. So if the three of us are dogs and there's one bone, probably one of us will get the bone. And in that circumstance, that one of us is dominant for that resource. But maybe there's a rubber toy, and maybe I like the rubber toy more than either of you do, so I get the rubber toy. So dominance isn't a personality trait. It's really about competing for resources. And it really gets us on the wrong track if we start thinking about having to dominate our dogs. It leads to confrontation and distrust and breaks down the human-animal bond.
I totally agree with you. I remember when I first started dog training, I'm coming from an abusive family relationship, and being in control is how things are right. If you do a wrong thing, you have to be punished, and if you're not getting punished, then it's because you got away with it. So I grew up with a belief that if you do wrong, you have to be corrected. You have to have consequences for your actions, and consequences was not just consequences, it was heavy-handed. I see that from a dog training angle, that many people use that idea of if a dog makes a mistake, he has to be corrected. How does the dog feel making decisions? If everything he makes a decision for is being corrected and punished, he will stop making decisions and he will be micromanaged. And then you have to tell him when to fart, and you have to tell him when to drink water, because that's what micromanaging is, unless you give him that freedom of choices that both of you already mentioned, and give the dog that freedom to navigate through a process. How can we teach the dog making choices to make right choices instead of being reactive, being proactive? Do you have a game that we can play for dogs to learn choices?
Most definitely. You've got to take the time to teach them the right behaviors first. Don't wait till the dog jumps to tell him to sit. Tell him to sit before the dog jumps, and condition coming and sitting, come, sit over and over and over and over again, 10 times more than the dog jumps. So you're replacing wanted behaviors, go-to behaviors. That way they have something that they know that they can do other than what they're compelled to do. And
I'll be kind of like a lawyer again here. What is my free will choice if I've been conditioned to accept something I actually don't like?
You have to pair that with something that the dog loves.
Good. So I have to change my emotions about it.
Yes.
Okay. And what if I don't like it anyway?
It depends on what we're talking about.
Well, I hate this guy. This 3-year-old, I'm going to pull his hair. I hate him.
I would not just give up right away. I would keep at it. I would experiment with different types of reinforcers to see if, maybe instead of a toy, some higher value food might work instead of a squeaky toy or tennis ball.
I hate this small guy because every time I'm with my parents, because I'm a guardian breed, every time I'm with my parents, this little bugger comes over and gets his attention. I hate it.
I would try to reestablish that relationship outside of that territory. Maybe see if we can rebuild it in a more neutral location. and that person or that little bugger, as you put it, has to be on board with their behavior as well. We have to make sure that whatever they're doing is not provoking a defensive or guardian response.
Dan, how would you deal with it? I know we had a short interruption. Dan, how would you deal with this little bugger? Okay, so I had a situation coming in where there's a 3-year-old and there's a large breed dog who is protecting over his owners. And the reason why is that this little guy doesn't respect boundaries. He's all over the place. He's yelling, screaming, coming up to the parents. If parents are on the phone, I had a hard time talking to them on the phone because the little bugger was always there. Mommy, mommy, mommy. And I was like, how about if you cannot control your 3-year-old, how do you want to control your dog? Well, that's my point. Let's start with some tools. You have to make clear that you're not always accessible. If you don't create a job description around the dog's belief system, what his job is, and modify that first, you will never be able to condition him to accept something it's not in his job description. Because his job is a survival instinct. He needs to do the job, otherwise he's going to lose his position, and losing his position will lead to death. It's a fear of death situation. It's a survival instinct. If you lose your job, David, how will you provide for your family? How hard would you try to keep your job? While somebody wants to convince you, you can let go of the job, honey. No big deal. Somebody will provide for you at some point. You maybe get a check or something, maybe later. And you're like, oh, sure, I'm conditioned right now. I'll wait for the check. Honey, sorry, we don't have food today. If we don't convey that information, that first, adjust the job description based on the dog's breed traits. Create a job description that is better than the one he's right now. Build up the confidence without taking away value. Well, I'm accessible, but if I don't tell you to come to me, I'm not available right now. However, wait for my call and I will be available. 100% available for you. Wait till second. I have to be available here first, and then I will be available here. Availability. I'm available now, I'm not available now. And start showing slowly the idea of not being available, and then transmute it into I'm partially available in a particular time frame if I call you. So if I don't call you,
Lost you, Roman. Just froze.
Sorry for the interruption. So what will be my availability? Teaching the dog this on and off availability so he doesn't need to worry about his existence because I'm not available. Am I encouraging him a job description that I actually want to disencourage? At the same time, can I teach my child to be patient and hold space while I'm being capable over here, so we both then are on the same page? We can be available in both directions. The reason why I'm available to you is because I was available here. And let the dog change that mindset, not because he's conditioned to do that, it's because he has an understanding of it. So I love conditioning because I think it's an important part of it, but I cannot condition a dog to accept something he doesn't understand. And I think this is sometimes a missing key, especially for a guardian breed who he is intelligent, is like a 5-year-old. And if you tell him you don't have time now, he's going to get depressed because you think you don't love him anymore. You can explain to him, I love you even more if you're over there. Look, I'll do it. I appreciate you. Do I need to mark that? I mark his intentions to make that choice. I click that and condition that choice that he made on his own. But I'm not trying to condition his choice because I want, it's because he made that choice. And not because I lured him to do that, it's because he had an understanding that that freaking choice is more valuable than the other choice. And especially a guardian breed who learns from observation and learns from his own experience. What do you think, Dan? I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just putting my point of view here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wrote an article on reinforcing the behavior that we prefer. And I wrote it because I like to spend a lot of time on the porch with my dogs, and the wildlife walks by. We live out in the countryside. So years ago, a raccoon walked past the screen porch door, and both dogs perked up and went through the screen after it. So they're following their hunting instinct. And I started working on rewarding them for calm behavior in the presence of those triggers. And last night, my wife and I were watching a movie in the living room, and one of our dogs is laying out in the porch next to the screen door watching a raccoon eating all the food that I put out for him. Just quietly laying there, relaxed. And it's because over the years I've consistently reinforced calm behavior in the presence of things that previously triggered arousal and pursuit. So now they're on autopilot. I gave them a different job and made that more reinforcing for them to be calm. And they don't have the motivation to go out and chase the wildlife. So
I like that. I think we should. I think Dan,
enjoy time more.
I think Dan has a valid point, and I think I could use that as a closing. Reinforcing a behavior is nothing different of making the dog understand or accept a common state of mind about a trigger that he was previously triggered. Am I saying it like right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all agree that you don't need heavy tools to manage big dogs if you have a clear definition of a job, if you have the dog manage his emotions, and if you teach the dog how to evaluate situations based on a family code of conduct that you created as a handler, as a parent, okay, as an owner, okay, as a boss, whatever, that you set your rules straight, that you want your business to run. And if you don't give your managers, like your dog who manages a certain job description, his free choice to make right choices and encourage them and appreciate them for making those choices, you will never achieve your goal of a calm, self-containing dog. If you always try to micromanage a dog who is not in control of his emotions, you will never get out of that vicious circle unless somebody comes into you and he says, all you need to do, my friend, is push that button and you get 100% attention.
Very
It
true.
works. It definitely works, but at what cost? Because that cost may kill your dog. And I don't think it's the right choice.
And it doesn't always work. I mean, a dog may not be mentally able to do what you're asking them to do. And then you're trying to inflict all of this correction and the dog is still not able to do it. You know, that's when it becomes abusive because you're not understanding the parameters that the dog can function in and you're trying to force something that they're not able. You know? So understanding your dog is the most important thing, and also laying the proper groundwork, the proper foundation of following you, looking to you for direction, practicing what you're going to do in the face of a distraction without a distraction. So you get that muscle memory down, that new dance of what we're going to do when we're exposed to stimulation. So it's already been practiced once they do see say a dog on a walk or a little kid coming in the house, they already know, okay, all I have to do is go to my place or look to my handler at distance, and then this is how we get through it.
I want to point out, and I so appreciate you guys. Dan, what would you say for closing? What is your takeaway here? What should people take away from here today?
I'd like to teach dogs how to control their own emotions, and then they can control their own behavior. Like you've said, if we rely on using a tool, we have to use that tool all the time. And the dogs haven't learned anything. So it's easier for pet guardians or owners, whatever term you'd like to use, if they're teaching their dogs how to have good manners, make good choices. Just the way you'd want to teach your children how to grow up making good choices so you're not micromanaging them until your retirement days. I think it works fine.
I know, Dan, we kind of overkilled it today. We are 5 minutes over, and I know you have to go for a client. So you're welcome to leave at any time you feel appropriate, because I know you have to travel in safety first and you get prepared. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank
However,
you.
I want to thank meanwhile, and you can listen on your way.
Great conversation.
Oh, I killed Dan. Sorry, Dan. I killed you before you left.
That's okay.
Talk to you soon. Bye. I want to thank you guys for sharing your information here, and I want to thank and give you a heads up that Lisa, I'm gonna pull it up here again. Lisa says, "Great talk today. Update." Thank you, Lisa. Gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your help a few weeks ago with my Neo Mastiff, Brutus Maximus. It was such a great name. I love so much Roman. And his aggressive growling in attack mode I was dealing with from our balcony with people walking by. Oh, I remember that. I have been using a combination of your techniques and we are making great progress. He is looking to me more now and now reacting as quickly or reacting at all. Slowly but consistently, I'm truly grateful. And he is the Mastiff you described, stubborn, on guard 24/7. You know what? I like this because what we do here is not taking over training. We are empowering people to step into their parenting powers and create that bond and relationship with the dog so the dog will look up to them for information. What else does it as a being want to be safe, feel safe and nurtured? No matter what breed, species you are, a rhinoceros, a crocodile, if you don't feel safe, you're in a survival mode. If you feel safe, you're calm. And we see all these animals living together in a harsh environment, sharing water poles with each other because they feel safe. And even if a threat is there, they feel safe. So then we have Karen. I found this very helpful. You're welcome, Karen. Well, you always, guys, you're welcome to ask questions. I mean, you don't have opportunities to have such a high caliber professionals here to ask questions, right? And then we have this, the things you guys taught me made me realize I need to control my behavior as well. Wow. I feel, I had a conversation yesterday with a client who is a correction officer or is a retired correction officer. And he struggled with his dog putting in a kennel. Weird, right? And so what happened there, he was very nice. He tossed a treat in the kennel. The dog wanted to go in, and the dog hesitated. He was like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's a trap. I'm gonna go in there, get my treat, and he's gonna close the door. I'm not stupid. I'm gonna make a U-turn and get out of there." But it was late at night, and the dog had to go in the kennel because they had to leave, kind of, sort of. So he kind of like helped him out a little bit, and the dog turned around and bit him. And usually what people would say, "Damn dog." He bit his owner's hand who feeds him. Boom, right? But he made another comment, which actually I got weepy about that because I felt how deep it came out from. And he said, "I have to reconsider my behavior towards my dog if I am challenged that the dog doesn't do what I want." That is a healing process of how you are triggered by your dog's behavior to offer a counter behavior to address that dispute. And I think as a handler, as a person, as a pet lover or parent, you have to come in a space as a parent and not being triggered and become passive aggressive because you're not doing what you want him to do. And I feel 90% of reasons people reach out to aggressive tools is because they feel triggered that they're out of control and they have no control over their dogs. And then these predatory behaviors come in of selling you a prong collar, selling you an e-collar because that will make the job. Without you changing, the dog will. And I think that is the essence. In order for your dog to change his emotion around a behavior and a situation, you have to be in control of your own emotions in order to hold space for the dog to get to that point where you want him to go. If you're not calm, you will not be able to help your dog come there. If you're not structured, you will not be able for the dog to follow through.
Mhm.
If you're not educational, you always will come aggressively towards your dog. And I think that's the key factor here. So my takeaway would be improve your relationship, secure attachment relationship with your dog. Make sure your dog has a free will to choose you as his primary source of information, and create that bond, that secure attachment bond that gives you so many tools for free. Obedience. The dog will do everything for you because he wants that relationship to keep going. That in itself is a positive reward. And then David will have less struggle to teach you how your dog to be obedient, because that damn dog will be focusing on you like a magnet. Loose leash walking, no problem. Recall, no problem. Yeah, some dogs will have problems there because of certain triggers, but your dog will always return because he wants approval that what he did was awesome. And then positive markers to encourage the dog to continue that behavior because you appreciate that. You cannot remotely give him a treat. You can use your clicker. You can use a word good or good job or boy, whatever you like to do. And this is the route we always train dogs in the past. The appreciation of a guarding dog, the appreciation of a dog walking our kids from one place to the other. For 40,000 years, we didn't use aversive tools because the dog had the choice to walk away if he didn't like it. So we were nice to dogs. I don't know what happened, and we screwed it up the last couple of decades, maybe 100 years. We totally screwed that up. I think we should go away from this dark age of dog training and come back to our senses like we were back before, calling the dog our best friend and actually behave that way. Man, the coffee's empty. I think our show is over.
That's the signal, right?
Thank you so much, David. And again,
Thank you very much, Roman.
following back, thank you, Dan, for joining us today. And he actually got late to his clients. Oops, it's our fault. My fault, I guess. Good. So join us today, next Saturday, same time, and come up with a couple of questions and bombard us with your opinion. If you're a colleague, don't hesitate. You're welcome to join on a panel and kind of discuss things. If you disagree with our approach, well, you have a free will to express yourself and disagree with it. But I encourage you, if you have a valid point, I'm open to learn. I'm a converted aggressive trainer, and I was pointed out certain things, and I was like, really? Well, it makes sense, but can you prove it? Is there anything that I can hold on to and read about it or learn about it? And I remember one friend of mine told me, have you tried it? Not really. Give it a shot. I'll show you how I do it and see how you like it. And I was like, you know what? It feels good. The dog responds. The dog feels better. It goes faster. I'll take it. And that was kind of like, whoa, there's more than that. There's a whole world around us. And the final trigger was a friend of mine who told me, look around you in nature. Have you ever seen nature punishing anyone? And I was like, you know what? Oh, yeah. Fall a leaf on my tree. And it says the tree doesn't know that you're there. There's no punishment. There is... is it raining? I was wondering what's it. There is a consequence. If you hit your hand against a tree, the consequence is you get hurt. Did your tree hurt you? No. It was your actions that hurt you. If you go into martial arts, there are martial arts who uses your own aggression against you, and he does nothing other than redirect your aggression to somewhere else. And you're going to flip around like crazy and you haven't a clue what happened. So it's the consequence. So if the dog has a consequence that leads him to a better understanding of the situation, then the consequence has a positive outcome. If a dog wants to jump on you and you don't respond, then the consequence of that is it doesn't work. And so the dog will not do that again. You don't even need to punish it. His own understanding of it doesn't work. It's a consequence of his actions. You're out of trouble. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, sir. Thanks for having me.
I talked too much today. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm always down to learn.
Good. And we'll talk about next time.
All right, man. Thank you very much, sir. We'll
Bye-bye.
see you next time.